Hello, everyone. This is Rabbi Ari Sachs of Congregation Beth Mordechai coming to you today with another counting of the Omer. We are up to day number 43 within the last week of the Omer counting, and this week begins the week of Malchut Shekhinah, which it literally translates into kingdom or presence. And as Rabbi Kantrowitz translates it, refers to the indwelling presence of God here within this world. And in fact, within the Kabbalistic Sefirot, meaning within the 10 different emanations of God that is a part of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism, that this is the lowest rung of God in terms of the relationship between us here on earth and all of the immanent world, and then the highest levels of God up on the more supernal more supernal level in which we can never ever reach. And this lowest level is in many ways how we as human beings are able to access the divine. So that there has to be some kind of door, some kind of opening for us to be in any kind of meaningful relationship with God. Meaning that if there was simply just God as being totally separate from human beings, then there would be no opportunity for a meaningful relationship and for us to be able to access any of God's divine energy. And yet what the Kabbalistic Sefirot really teach us more than anything else is that there are different ways for us to be able to access that divine energy, and that this particular Sefirah, the Sefirah of Malchut Shekhinah, of the divine presence that dwells among us, is that opening gate, is that entrance for us to be able to access divine energy. And as such, in order to be able to think about what it means to be able to connect with God, to have that kind of access, we now turn to Rabbi Kantrowitz's teaching for this first day of Malchut Shekhinah, this day of Hesed, sheb'Malkhut Shekhinah, of loving kindness within indwelling presence. The flow of loving kindness into the world is never ending, like the stars wandering along their paths in the sky, or gentle ripples in a constantly refreshed natural spring. It is no surprise that a person who exudes chesed, loving kindness, is called a chassid, a righteous person, a person whose caring is continuous. We understand how Chesed influences Malchut Shekhinah when we recognize the protecting compassion of God as our ideal parent, guiding, counseling, influencing, loving, guarding. The source of presence can be experienced as the sheltering wings of Shekhinah. These wings protect, but do not smother. Today, we remember that the caring presence always surrounds and shields us. I think that what's most interesting from this concept of loving kindness, sheb'Malkhut Shekhinah, is that in desiring access to the divine, in wanting to be able to connect with God, that this first level is in which we seek God's caring compassion within our lives. So that there are many different kinds of ways in which we can connect with God. Some of them are in many ways, some of them are having to do with fear or yirah. Some of them have to do with awe. Some of them have to do with a sense of humility. Some of them have to do with a sense of being grounded in what's most important in life. And there are all different kinds of ways in which we can access the divine, but that this first level that we talk about here, when it comes to getting access to the divine energy through Malchut Shekhinah, is that of compassion, is that of chesed. And that I would say that the best metaphor for what that compassion looks like is of protection. Is, as we say on Friday in our Hashkivenu prayer, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shalomecha, that God shall spread God's a sukkah of peace, a sukkah of protection over us. And that feeling that warm embrace of love, as seen through protection, as seen through the wings of the Shekhinah, can give us the sense that God loves us. And in fact, it is in those moments when we do not feel protected by God, when we feel God's turning of God's face from us, when we have to deal with terror, when we have to deal with forces of evil, that really make us question whether or not God truly loves us and whether or not that love is a part of our lives. And yet, no matter where we are in our own spiritual journey, if we are feeling more of that chesed, if we are not feeling that chesed, that this day of the Omer is here to remind us that when we seek the divine, that the first place that we must go to, the first point of access, is one of loving kindness, is one to feel that warm embrace of God. And even if we may struggle to get there, that is the goal that we should strive for. And as such, in order to concretize this desire to access God's love, to be able to discover God through the loving kindness that God bestows upon us, through the protection in which we can feel around us and through us, we now turn to the actual counting of the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. We praise you, Adonai, our God, master of time and space, whose commandments add holiness to our lives, who commanded us to count the Omer. Hayom shlosha ve'arba'im yom shehem shisha shavuot ve'yom echad la'omer. Today is day number 43 of the Omer, the day of Chesed sheb'Malkhut Shekhinah, the day of discovering God's loving kindness, God's compassion, God's protection within God's indwelling presence here among us. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us for today's counting, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care and all the best. Bye-bye.